As part of Ferrari Fridays, William Ross from the Exotic Car Marketplace will be discussing all things Ferrari and interviewing people that live and breathe the Ferrari brand. Topics range from road cars to racing, drivers to owners, as well as auctions, private sales, and trends in the collector market.
Welcome to the Ferrari Marketplace Podcast. Today we're going to take a deep dive into the legend itself, the Ferrari 250 GTO. With only 36 ever built, the GTO sits atop of the collector car market. With its racing pedigree, unmatched beauty, its history with some of the motorsport's most prolific drivers, it is the ultimate expression of Ferrari's 1960s racing dominance. But today we're not just going to talk about any GTO. We're specifically going to talk about chassis 3729 GT. This is the only 250 GTO that left the factory in Bianco Speciale, or for us that don't speak Italian, that's white. We believe it might have been at the request of John Coombs, being that he was British and didn't want to have a red car, but one of my guests might be able to delve into that a smidge. And for now, though, but the first time in, multiple decades, this GTO is coming to auction. Specifically, it's going to be coming to Mecum Kissimmee auction in January, the world's largest collector car auction event. Today, joining me also on this is going to be Sam Murtaugh, COO of Mecum Auctions, and Chris Miele from the Prancing Horse of Nashville. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's just jump right into the car itself, this specific GTO. There's some really great specifics about this car that make, in my opinion, one of the more collectible ones of the 36. Obviously all of them are collectible, but, there's some really good specifics about this car itself that I think makes it kind of stand out from the other ones. It's just one of 8 right-hand drive cars. My opinion, out of 36, 1/8, that kind of makes it a little bit more special. Chris, what are your thoughts on that being one of only 8 right-hand drive cars?
Obviously, it was sold to a UK owner, so the cars are right-hand drive. It's the car that he preferred to have. They're just used to it. For us in the States, it's a little odd for us, but right-hand drive cars are super desirable in certain markets.
Well, right-hand drive cars, which obviously shrinks the rarity from 36 down to 8, but the fact that this is painted white, it is the only one painted white from the factory, basically being the only one, regardless of the right-hand drive. The only one painted white of the whole group is the most powerful piece of this car, from my perspective. Whether it's right or left-hand drive, whatever you like, but the fact that it's the only one in white, that is the spectacular fact to me from a rarity standpoint.
I agree. I think it looks spectacular in white myself. That's for sure.
Yep.
Makes it stand out. And especially the fact that, you've had a lot of them that have been repainted, different colors and that, but this day and age, it's always good to have it go back to its factory color. Being that one of one, you'll know which special car you have out of all of them.
No question. If you want to stand out in an elite crowd, of which being an owner of a GTO puts you at the highest of the pedestal, but to have the only one in white and to stand out in white, to see it just the white color in that car and the lines in that car, it's spectacular.
Most definitely. Now, do we know specifically why that left the factory in white? Was it at the request of Coombs?
I believe so, yes.
At least it wasn't green, but white looks very nice on it. Another great thing, or I guess special, unique thing about this car itself is everyone that is familiar with and knows GTOs, they all think they have blue interior. That car actually came from the factory with the black interior?
No, it came with a blue interior, but when it immediately was delivered in period with the number 10 on it, it was the car that was run by Graham Hill. From the best of my knowledge, I believe that the car had the black seats, and that was only weeks after the car was delivered. So I think that's what they changed up on it when the car got delivered to the UK.
Wondering why they would do that so quickly, switch it from the blue. Did all the GTOs come blue and black? Or was there another color else came in?
No, there was a few different colors. There was some that were delivered with red. There was some that were delivered with green. There was even black interiors. It was just something at the time. They used almost like a Nomex type material, so the driver wouldn't slide around in his overalls and his racing suit. It was almost like a vinyl on the sides that was used on the side bolsters, but the seats are very, very, very small seat that's in that car. It's super easy to retrim and put, whatever color you want it. But I'm assuming that Coombs, that was his look. His livery that he had was white with black because it was obviously requested that way.
If anyone out there listening knows why they did it so quickly, shoot me a message because we'd like to know if we get an answer to that. That'd be fantastic. But that's good to know because I think of blue when I think of GTO on the interior. Something that would stand out, but black, white interior, fantastic. Coombs, actually being a Jaguar guy, sent the car over to Jaguar for them to, reverse engineer it to try and get their Jaguar up to speed because the GTO was so fast. What do we know about that little story? Because it's never been confirmed, but it's kind of pretty well known.
Coombs, was, as Chris mentioned, he was British and, obviously was heavy into the associated with Jaguar. And it said that Jaguar engineers wanted to get their hands on that to figure out what's going on, what's making this car so great, and to be able to have an opportunity with the relationship with Coombs and get their hands on a GTO to, looking into that car and figuring out what they could use from that to prototype their lightweight E-types.
Coombs did a few special things to kind of, I want to say, differentiate. I don't know if make it better. What did Coombs do to the car itself to, I guess, in his mind, improve it?
Coombs, I believe, put the increased cooling in it. So the third vent, most of the cars have the 2 vents on them. This car has 3 vents on the right-hand side. And he made some other small modifications to the car because he was obviously competing with the car and they were showing the car and running it everywhere they could in the UK.
The louvers on the hood, I believe, was something Coombs added. And I think air ducts in the front. I think he replaced those fog lights and made those functional air, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
He did make some small ones. There's a photo of the car with Graham Hill running the car, and it's got the 3 vents on it. So, it was definitely a 3-vent car originally, because there's other photos when you look at it. The green one that I mentioned to you, it was actually a little bit earlier car. And there's cars that were later than it that actually had the 2 vents as well. So there had to be a point with Scaglietti when they went ahead and they built the body on these cars. It had to be a request, but it wasn't something that Coombs, you got to be clear about that it was added afterwards. There's a few of them that have the 3 vents on the side. There are a few cars that have the 3 vents because you can clearly see it in the photo. They had those 3 vent holes in the front, but there's other ones that were in the bonnet and, cars had, different things in them. This car, it hasn't been modified. This is the way that this car was ordered.
The vents on the hood, on the front or in the nose, can you open and close those?
Yes.
In motion?
No, not in motion. No, you just go ahead. They have quick fasteners on them and you just put them in. So they obviously did it for cooling because if they don't want the car to run too hot or obviously too cool.
At Le Mans specifically, and a lot of the other tracks back then, they had a lot of very long straights and obviously aerodynamics come into play. Wasn't it early cars, they came to the conclusion or realized that it's having a lot of nose lift at higher speeds?
Yeah, that's when the early days of aerodynamics were really starting to kick in. And they started to figure out, we got to go ahead and keep this car cool or hot. But, the more openings that you have on a car, the more it slows it down because that's just that much more air that's not slipping over the car. It's going into it. It's kind of a balancing act at that point. If you look at the grille on a 250 GTO, it's quite small. And as a sidebar, when you look at the car like the 275 car, the Hen car, the sister car to Dana's car, during the race, they had to get wire snippers in 65 and cut a giant hole in the front of the car just to get more air into the car. And that's really the successor to the 250 GTO.
Always keep in mind that, yes, you could drive them on the street, but these were race cars. That's what they were built for back in the day. It was to compete. People sit there and look how minimalist the interior is and what it's got. It doesn't have any creature comforts. This thing had one purpose, and that was to go fast and win races. Extra cooling, everything would be critical back then, too, especially front engine V12 is going to need to breathe as much as it possibly can.
For sure.
This car's really, it's never been, I want to say wrecked, but I mean, it might have had a ding or two here or there, but it's never had anything of serious consequence where quarter panels, all this stuff had to get replaced or anything like that. Pretty solid as an original car, right?
Well, Mike Parks had an accident with it in 63, which is well documented. It had its battle scars. And the way that it worked, if you were racing for Ferrari, if you weren't pushing the car right to the very edge, you were no longer going to be a racing driver for Enzo Ferrari. It was first or nothing with them. It wasn't, second or third place. They weren't satisfied with that. It was win at all costs. And the drivers put the cars to their limits and they pushed them right to the edge. And sometimes they went a little bit over the edge. But to your point, what you mentioned earlier, was it completely in an accident? Some of the other GTOs have had some catastrophic crashes. No, this car didn't. It was raced in period. It had its battle scars, as they say. Structurally, the car is sound. And it's, the way that the car always was.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Some of these have been, I would say, damaged beyond recognition, but, they had some significant damage, and having something that's that original, close to original, is fantastic as well.
For sure.
Let's get into specifically 3729 GT, Ferrari 250 GTO. In the build sequence, when was this one built?
Number 12.
Okay, so they had some, I guess you would say, testing or I'd say racing done prior to that one being built. So they probably modified that after knowing that needed more cooling.
Yeah, and it's funny. On the most part, the cars were all the same. One of them has a different differential. Two of them actually have a different differential in them. And then there's some that, have a stripe on them, which is noted, obviously, originally how it left. But this was the third one for the UK. So I believe it's the third right-hand drive car, at least what I'm seeing here. And it's number 12. Most of them are Rosso China, but some of them are Rosso Corsa is what it shows here, which I don't know if that's a screw up in the computer or not. I didn't know that was actually a color at any point until way, way later, racing red. Oh, no, it actually, no, it is. Oh, yeah, I see another car with it as well. I see 3 cars with it. Yeah, it's quite unique, this car. But it's definitely, when I look at this car, 3729, it's the 12th one that was produced.
One thing that I think is very special too, and what's great about this car is the long-term ownership history that this car's had. Chris, can you touch on that a little bit regarding to basically just only really a couple owners?
Jack Sears had the car from 1970 all the way to 1999. I mean, he had a long ownership with the car. That's when John Shirley purchased the vehicle.
30 years is impressive for keeping a car of that nature. What did he buy that car for? I mean, it wasn't all that much back in, what was it, 71 he bought it?
Oh, yeah. So in 1971, that car probably at the absolute most would have been probably $10,000 to $15,000. I know that the Nick Mason car was sold for about $35,000 to $40,000 from Ronald Stern to Nick Mason in 1978 or 79. I'd say in the early 70s, it was probably somewhere around 15, maybe 20,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's quite the investment when you really look at it.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's a nice return. And as a little side story, Nick Mason utilized his car as collateral to fund, was the mid 80s Pink Floyd reunion tour or whatever. They put that up as collateral for, I don't know, it's like $1 million or something like that to be able to pay for their tour. That came back tenfold just on the tour alone. So that's always kind of an interesting little story with that.
Great story. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, John Shirley got the car in 1999. And John, I believe at that point in time, it was only shortly thereafter, he was still working. He was the former CEO of Microsoft, and he got the vehicle and he used it quite a bit. I mean, he took it to all the Cavallino Classics. He took it to the Monterey historic races. I mean, he really, really had a lot of fun with the car and showed it off. And everyone, as Sam mentioned, knew it as the white Ferrari GTO. It's a real special car. And obviously, John was heavily involved with, a lot of other things that he did at Pebble Beach as far as showing other vehicles and doing concours events. So he's a well-known name. So he did it from all sides. He was not only showing cars, he was doing track days with cars and heavily involved with doing everything, even involved, obviously, with Ferrari Classic K, getting the car certified with Ferrari Classic K.
He's been an outstanding caretaker, and obviously you can see for multiple decades, which is great. Then the previous owner of that, Jack Sears, he had it for 20 plus years himself, which was great to see. And they thoroughly enjoyed the car. If you look at the history on that, racing historics and everything like that, that car was out there in the public, beauty in motion, I guess you could say. I mean, it's just a fantastic car. Chris, you touched on, the car's obviously got its red book. It's got the Classic K certification. That's Ferrari going through and saying, yes, this is how this car came from the factory. For this auction itself coming up, what would need to be done or what gets done to the car itself, especially a car at that level, getting it ready for the auction? What gets done prior to the auction?
John, he has his own gentleman that works for him, Fred, and they really take care of all the cars. The cars are extremely well maintained, the whole collection that he has. And this car in particular, obviously, was no different than any other one. That being said, when John first had the car, it was red. When he first purchased the car, it was red. And then in 2008, I believe, the car got the Classic K certification. And that's when they went ahead and Ferrari made a new engine block. And that was installed in the car. And it has the designation on there, the internal number 2300/62E, E for Echo, which designates that it is a GTO motor, which is done right from the factory. So at some point early in its life, the engine was replaced. There was a 250 short wheelbase Competizione engine that was put in for some time. Then there was a 250 GTE engine that was put in. But right now, it has the proper specification motor that's in there from the factory. So the car was mechanically maintained, but it was never restored. The car is still not a complete frame off restoration. John had the car, it was red. John used a gentleman, I believe Butch Dennison did the car up in Washington State, and he brought the car back to white. But initially, John Shirley wasn't convinced to make the car white. It was the guys at Ferrari Classic K. It was actually Marco Arrighi who really pressed the issue with him. And then sure enough, John painted the car in 2016, I believe. And then the first time it came out was at Windsor Castle in the UK. And that's when, the big puff was, hey, there's a white GTO, because for many, 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 many years, the car was red. I don't think a lot of people knew. And the internet isn't what it is today. I mean, every year it seems like the internet evolves and there was no AI. Unless you went ahead and scrubbed it and found photos, many of the photos that you found were from very, very early in the days. But for a good period of its time, the car was red. And now it's back to the original way that it left the factory, which is white.
In the collector car world, there was that period where it was like basically restored to better than new. Not so much really follow, hey, this is how it left the factory. Then all of a sudden we went into the barn finds and everything. But then all of a sudden, hey, let's go back to originality. It's fantastic he did that, went back to the white, and he got talked into or convinced that, hey, that's the way to go. And obviously it turned out, I think, was an excellent choice because it just stands out from the rest. Because you get it all lined up, red, black, just one white one, stick it in there. So, I mean, it's great to see.
For sure. When you look at the list and you look at the original colors from the factory, there's some obviously silvers, green, white, but to your point, primarily Rosacina. I mean, most of them are red.
Mentioned the engine block getting recast. And looking at the description, what you guys have, that's coming with another motor, correct?
Yeah, the engine that Chris described is in the car, and there's a spare motor that will come with it. So John, for as many events as he participated in, it was to be able to have a motor like that you could really get after and get on and not worry about, and be able to protect the engine that Chris described and make sure that stays as pristine and proper as it needs to be, but having another engine to be able to use to drive the car. John drove the car. He drove it respectfully, but he enjoyed, when we were out there with him a couple of months ago, he very explicitly stated, that cars are meant to be driven. These cars are meant to be enjoyed. This race car wants you to drive it. So being able to have that ability to drive it, I mean, as aggressively as you want to, but not to worry as much about the motor, you'll have that opportunity to swap a motor if need be for the new owner.
Hot rod motor. That's what he calls it.
That's right. The hot rod motor.
Well, that's common too with a lot of higher value cars like that, is they drop in a different engine and keep that one safe, which is great because that means they're getting out there using their car and participating in, this day and age, there's so many historic events that you can participate in, across the globe. This car will get you into every single one, no questions asked. I mean, that's like your golden ticket to participate in all these events. So whoever the new owner may be, the palace is open, so to speak, in regards to just attending any event you'd want. And not to mention, I don't know if you can confirm it, but don't the GTO owners do their own kind of little private events every few years?
They did. So a few years ago, they had a couple different reunions. And if you look it up, you'll see that they had the 50th anniversary GTO tour in 2012, and they actually had another one they put together with Canosa, who runs Cavallino events, and they got to get together, and they try to get as many of the guys together, but it's a real special crew, obviously, the gentlemen that have the cars. And, some of the cars have swapped in and swapped out, the Rick Workmans and different guys like that had the cars and they've sold them. But for the most part, into what you mentioned earlier, you got Nick Mason, you got Anthony Bamford, you got Brandon Wangs, you got all these different guys that have had the cars for long-term ownership, and they do get together for a reunion every so many years. It's not every single year. It seems like it's every few years. I think every 5, to be honest.
What's the amount of documentation this car comes with? Because I think that's one thing that's key, especially in these higher value cars, is documentation history. I mean, what, like documentation wise, what's going to be coming with the car?
Sam can probably touch on that because I didn't see the documentation, but I know that there is plenty of stuff with John. For sure.
I have not physically reviewed all the documentation, but I did see a couple of big books sitting on the desk with a lot in there. I mean, I was amazed at how many historic photos of all the different races that this car participated in at the beginning, 62 to 69-ish, 68-ish, something like that, with all the different photo documentation we have on this car. And as it went through all the different drivers and the different races that it was participating in, was pretty impressive. Obviously, the Red Book and the ownership history is documented all the way back to the beginning. It's got good stuff.
Be impressive. And I'm sure it would take someone a few weeks to go through all that. And just as us being all car nerds, we'd sit there and eat it all up, just every single line, because just seeing that history, knowing what that thing did, where it raced, who's raced it. I mean, because you got, Graham Hill, Roy Salvadori. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The people that have gotten behind the wheel of that car, put it through its paces back in the day is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about Mecum Kissimmee itself, because this is becoming the preeminent auction of the year, not just volume, but the quality of cars you guys are getting, Sam. How's this evolving where you guys are starting to get a lot more of these highly collectible elite cars? And how's this changing Mecum's DNA in regards to its like core brand?
And I've been with the company, I think this is my 18th or 19th year. And so, I think I was 2004 or 5 was my first Kissimmee auction. The auction, I think, started in 2000 was the very first one, which started behind a laundromat in Kissimmee in Old Town and evolved over to I think with like 50 cars in it. And then by that time, it moved to OCL Heritage Park. When I was first there, the auction and the cars were all inside one tent in the corner of the property. But every single year since then, it has grown almost double every single year after year. Started out with a couple, when I was there, it was probably 200 or 300 cars. Started out as an all Corvette only auction, I think in conjunction with an NCRS event that was down there. Dana decided to open up to all types of cars, and it really just took fire and never looked back. And it's grown and grown exponentially year after year. Somewhere around 2010 ish, it took hold as the world's largest collector car auction with the volume of cars that were at one event, and continue to grow past that. We're pushing 5,000 cars now. So from 50 cars behind a laundromat to 5,000 cars in 13 days long, it has just become a spectacle. It's the greatest car show on earth, in my opinion, as far as where you can see, every type of vehicle that you can imagine is there that week. And it really sets the tone for the collector car market for the rest of the year.
How do you guys go about, having that volume of cars, obviously over multiple days? How do you start organizing? Okay, we're going to have these go on this day, these on this day. And I love it, the moniker leading up to Super Saturday when you have all the big hitters. I mean, how do you guys kind of go about figuring out what goes where?
Anytime you put 4,000 to 5,000 cars in one place, how do you disseminate what needs to go where, and how do you do that? And we do that by value. The weekends are our most attended events. Both the first weekend and the second weekend are the most heavily attended. So, the very first day one, will be, relatively expensive, what we like to refer to as entry level collectibles, things of people that are just looking to get into the market, dip their toe in the water and get into it. We've got a lot more affordable cars in those early days, and sort of apex and lead ourselves into that first weekend. And we get some really great cars that first weekend, type of quality you would see in some of our bigger days at some of our other events throughout the country, throughout the year. And then we do a bit of a reset. There's sort of two big crowds. You have the first weekend crowd, which is a little bit more regional. And then the national and international crowd starts to come in day after day as we lead into the second weekend. So Tuesday is slightly smaller, and it gets bigger on Wednesday, which gets bigger on Thursday, bigger to Friday, and then on to Saturday. And everything culminates at the peak on Saturday. So Friday and Saturday, the second weekend, are our two biggest days. It's heavy metal from start to finish on both those days. So the cool thing is, anyone that's in the hobby at whatever level, you can get involved with Kissimmee and be a part of it and connect with it, whether as a buyer or a seller, but even as, from a spectator's perspective, to see cars that are pretty attainable up to the aspirational vehicles to watch these guys trading high dollar, extremely valuable cars into that second weekend is what makes Kissimmee so special.
Great, because a lot of people, either it's their first collectible, the only collectible they're going to buy, but to your point is there's something there for everyone, not just price point, but style, genre, I mean, there's something there for everybody.
And cars like this GTO that we're talking about here, I mean, obviously is the headliner for Saturday, the second weekend. As Kissimmee's continue to grow and the international attention that it receives and the amount of people that come to it, all 50 states in the United States and from, I think it was 30 different countries around the world that participate in this event. The fact that we have that big of an audience and that amount of eyeballs focused on one location at one point in time has really opened the eyes to a lot of folks to realize that if I want to sell my car and I want to bring the most attention to it in one place and maximize the exposure, Kissimmee's the place to do that. And I think that the more and more people realize, you can take a car like this and go to Monterey and compete with 6 different auction events going on the same weekend on the same day at the same time, or you can put this car on a pedestal in front of an international audience that's arguably bigger and find success.
Being a multi-day event over, a week and a half, 2 weeks roughly, what other events also go on during that? It's not 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. that the car's going across the block. What else do you guys have going on there?
Well, it is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with cars going across the block. That does happen. Oh, yeah. No, we're bell to bell. We're selling 350 on some of the days, almost 400 cars in a day. To sell that amount of cars, you have to work that hard and work that long. But the event itself, we've got entertainment going outside with music and things going outside, an adventure zone for kids, for families to come out and enjoy themselves, and they can get involved and do, automotive oriented events with the kids. We'll have speakers and seminars going on at our midway stage out front. We do car parades. So, the cars don't just sit on display forever until they're time to go to the block. We do some hand selects and we do car parades across our midways, like we like to call it. So folks can sit and watch the cars run, drive, listen to them. Huge food truck area. I think of over a dozen food trucks that are out there with all different types of food for people to get involved with and hang out. It's just from a car enthusiast perspective, it's like Disneyland or Disney World, I should say, if we're in Orlando, but there's just a ton going on. It's very stimulating.
This day and age too, how is, working social media, YouTube, and obviously you guys are broadcasting now too. How has that changed your guys' approach? And has that really helped you guys acquire and grow in regards not just volume, but cars you guys are getting?
Yeah, we're very much also in the entertainment business. Our auctions are broadcast live on ESPN, ESPN Plus. We launched Mecum TV on the Roku channel, so we have 24/7 Mecum auctions rolling. We're producing content for that. We're premiering a show on the GTO on Mecum TV. Between YouTube and all the content we produce for that, social media, Insta. We have a whole team dedicated to social media from Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all the like. And, we're very much an entertainment company just as much as we are an auction company now. With the kind of cars that cross our block and the cool stories that we're able to tell, we've got content coming out of our ears and we love telling the story. We'll video and it's fun. It's why I got into this.
Yeah, I mean, that's one great thing about this industry or just cars itself is knowing the story behind a lot of it, because every car's got a story. It's fantastic to learn a lot of these things, and delving into those creates, I don't want to say a mystique, but it really kind of can grow and make that car special.
No, absolutely. I mean, the amount of cars that we see year after year, I think Chris would feel the same. I mean, we're in the cars are our work. That's our life. It's what we do day in, day out, every day. But when you find a car with a great story behind it and the people that you meet because of that story or the connections that you make because of that, that's what makes this stuff cool. The cars are great. And then people ask us all the time, what's your favorite car? What car do you want? To me, it changes all the time. I mean, it's about the people and the stories that you hear and learn and the connections that you make along the way is what makes this hobby super cool and fun and great to be a part of.
Looking at it, we have 70 plus Ferraris as of now, basically going across the block down in Kissimmee. Obviously culminating in the GTO, but you have a very, very nice selection of Ferraris that are going to be crossing that block.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Probably one of the best collections of Ferraris that we've ever offered for sale.
Yeah, the Bachmann collection, which we'll do in a couple of weeks. We're going to do an episode on that as well, because there's some very special vehicles in that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I'm going to have you kind of touch on this. Mecum, obviously, what they're getting now and get involved in the level of cards they're doing, I mean, it's just top notch. What was the choice? I mean, going to Mecum, what was the thought about, hey, this car is going to be best served at Mecum?
So what happened was originally I was at Retromobile in Paris and, doing your normal visits, you're meeting all the different people. And I bumped into one of the Pebble Beach judges. His name is Richard Adato. He's also an author and writes some great books on French cars. We had a really good dinner together. We met the year before and had dinner as well. And then the following day, he went back to Washington. He's a very good friend of John Shirley. A couple weeks later, we had the event that was at Amelia Island. And I see Richard as I'm checking out of the hotel. And he says to me, hey, where are you heading back to? I said, I'm heading back to Orlando, catching a flight. He said, you mind if I tag along? So he jumps in the car. We're probably an hour into the ride. And he looks at me and he says, hey, you got anybody for John's 250 GTO? I almost went off the road, to be honest with you. And I looked at him and I said, you're serious? He said, yeah. And the first person that popped in my mind was Dana, because Dana's a collector. I picked up the phone that evening. I called Dana and we had a chat. Dana said, listen, I was already involved with helping Dana with the 275 LM. We were restoring that car and I was looking after that project in Italy. I said to him, is this something you'd want to add to the collection? And he said, you know what? Let's have a conversation with John. We had a conversation with John. We went out there and Dana, John, myself, we all sat together. The decision was made because it wasn't something that Dana was going to put into his collection. It was best suited to bring it to public auction. Obviously, John's still the owner of the car, and we connected Dana and John together. And it was a match made in heaven, as they say, because as Sam pointed out, and you pointed out, there's over 70 cars going to Kissimmee. We're going to talk about the Bachmann collection in the future, which is a real special collection. To my knowledge, I don't know of any Ferrari collection or this amount of Ferraris that's ever been presented at one auction at one time, ever, at any point in time. So it's super exciting. Dana, from a personal level, he's got an amazing Ferrari collection. He's a real true connoisseur to the brand. He shows his cars. He's obviously involved with Pebble Beach. He does the Cavallino events. He does the Amelia Island events. Dana's obviously the right guy that's personally involved. It's not just a business. Dana has a true love for the cars. I really honestly felt, when the conversation came up and it just evolved so quickly, It really, really, really went well. And it was great to be part of it, to see the meeting with John and obviously with Dana together. It was a great, great time, and it's worked out well.
That's what the awesome thing about Dana is, he is a true collector. I mean, he has a passion for these cars as well. And seeing his unbelievable collections, fantastic as well. When Dana kind of dropped that bomb on everyone else at Mecum, what was the thoughts and enthusiasm around the offices?
Our marketing team got extremely excited really quick. I mean, obviously, the nice thing is, when you're as promoters of auctions and, with headliners like this, especially to get as early as we're able to do and be able to kick off our Kissimmee campaigns with a car of this magnitude was exciting for all of us. And to, really, set the tone early and march towards January. I mean, we announced the GTO was coming to Kissimmee. We announced it in Monterey in August at our auction there. Being able to launch the campaigns for Kissimmee in the middle of August with a headliner like this GTO, it was the best. We were excited.
Not just that car, but the amount of other Ferraris that are going to be crossing the block in Kissimmee. This is really going to kind of set the tone for the market because, you have your top end. I'm not going to say bottom end with like some 308s and 328s, but this is really going to kind of set the tone in regards to where the market's going into 2026. In my mind, it's kind of a big responsibility in regards to all the eyes that are going to be on you guys.
We're up to that task, that challenge, and Kissimmee for years now has been that market tone setter for whatever type of vehicle for all the different markets, right? So whether it be muscle cars or Corvettes or Ferraris or whatever. I mean, the fact that we kick it off in January, we start the year off with such a bang with this auction, it sets the tone for the market for the rest of the year, no doubt about it. So we do it on an annual basis, and we're excited to do it for Ferrari.
As you delve into these more, do you guys see yourself sticking to your true path in regards to how you guys do your auctions, or do you see yourself doing something a little different with, like, say, a separate high-end type situation?
We do it all together, but we do what's necessary for the different types of vehicles and set the stage. I mean, the displays that we put together and produce in Kissimmee are second to none, and we'll do these cars justice for what they deserve. And, having the opportunity to have these on display is a hell of an attraction for the people that come just to watch the show. But to segregate where we position these cars in the auction, how we put them on display, how we represent them, how we present them, it's taken Kissimmee to another level. Once again, as I described, as we continue this growth trajectory for Kissimmee and adding this layer on top of what's already extremely successful and has become the world's largest collector car auction, to have this on top of that is incredible. We're proud to do it. We're excited to have it. We're pleased that the sellers have given us the opportunity to present these cars for sale at auction in Kissimmee, and we're excited to see what the results.
Yeah, it's going to be a packed room, that's for sure. And I know I plan on trying to be there for it as well, especially seeing all those go across, because it's going to be fantastic.
Yep.
Chris, when was the last time your GTO crossed the block open auction like this?
A couple of years ago, there was one that passed over the block, and there was a Series 2 that passed. There's never been a white one.
No.
That's what sets this car apart. And look, we kind of touched on it earlier about, Sam mentioned it. I talked about it a little bit. John, how involved he was. And some of them cars, they've been restored. There was one that was totally restored. And, it didn't look like that, obviously, when it left the factory in 62 or 63, when that particular car left. This car has a real period correct feel to it. It's just an amazing car. And then, on top of it, you have the hot rod motor. It's white. The provenance of who owned the car, who drove the car, Mike Parks, Graham Hill, Formula One world champion. You got really, really, really special people that race this car in period. It's a real special car. It really is.
Obviously, to bid on this car price-wise, and I'm not going to get into say, hey, what do you think it's going to go for? Because we're not even going to touch that. What does someone got to do for a car of that level? Registering, whatnot? I mean, is there anything different they have to do that wouldn't be, say, different from standard, just registering to bid?
Every situation is different. Obviously, their relationships are big components of this. And, but it's, if we have someone that's comes out of nowhere from, somewhere in Europe or that we're not aware of, obviously there'll be conversations that'll have, and we'll set their financial verification up, get them registered to bid with, and understand that they have the means to purchase that car. And, references are always helpful and things like that. But, you get to a car like this, it gets to be a case by case. I mean, rarely do you have someone that just goes and registers a bid online and just, pops out of the woodwork, but it's not to say it's never happened, but yeah, I mean, it's an easy process. Getting registered is easy. Getting a hold of us and having a conversation with our bidder services team and getting connected. Chris obviously is helping with his contacts and throughout the country and around the world. It's not a overly complex process, but you can't just log in and push a button without any type of financial verification.
Bid.
Yeah.
Your media pass request has probably gone through the roof.
Yeah, there's a lot of media attention. There's a lot coming in on that. Actually, vetting some of these media folks is probably more difficult than vetting some of these high net worth individuals.
On your Roku channel, you guys are going to do a special on this car specifically. And I would assume that on the Roku, it gets played multiple times.
Yeah, it'll re-air multiple times. I think it's going to re-air 4 times a day after we premiere it Thursday, November 6th. It will premiere at 8 p.m. Eastern on Mecum TV on Roku. And then after it premieres, it'll cycle through and re-air, I think, 4 times a day between now and Kissimmee auction in January.
Be sure to check out all of Mecum's social media pages and sites, because they are doing a wonderful job showcasing what that car is and just how special it is, because it's unbelievable.
And I'm really excited about this auction. It's going to be the biggest Ferrari auction at one place on one time ever. You're never going to see the quality of cars at one place, at one venue that you're going to see at this auction. This is going to be historic. And like Sam said, greatest spectacle in sports, they always used to say, was the Indy 500. Well, this will be the greatest spectacle in auctions for sure. This is it. You got to be part of it.
This is a moment in history. It's one of those things that only comes and happens every so often. And I think this is going to be a really special moment. This car is going to really be strong. And I'm really excited to see it, because, not just this one, but all the other Ferraris going to be crossing the block. This is a moment in Ferrari history in regards to what's going to be happening, because there's a lot of special vehicles. Again, I appreciate you guys coming on. I look forward in a couple of weeks. We're going to come back. We're going to visit the Bachman collection, which is also going to be crossing the block down in Kissimmee. And that one's going to be spectacular in its own right. The quality and what the cars are in that collection is unbelievable. And Chris will be back. Sam will be back. And to everyone listening, appreciate you tuning in, and stay tuned till next time.
You got it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Nobody sells more than Mecum. Nobody. Mecum Auctions is the world's leader of collector car, vintage, and antique motorcycle and road art sales, hosting auctions throughout the United States. The company had specialized in the sale of collector cars for more than 35 years, now offering more than 22,000 lots per year and averaging more than one auction per month. Mecum Auctions is headquartered in Walworth, Wisconsin, and since 2011 has been ranked number 1 in the world with the number of collector cars offered at auction, and is host to the world's largest collector car auction held annually in Kissimmee, Florida, as well as the largest motorcycle auction held annually in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mecum's Road Art and Mecum On Time divisions offer a wide variety of collectibles for live and online auctions. You can learn more and follow Mecum and their upcoming events at www.mecum.com, or you can follow them on social at Mecum Auction on Facebook, at Mecum_auctions on Instagram, at Mecum on Twitter, and at Mecum Auction on YouTube.
For everything from Ferrari and Porsche, Lamborghini, and Koenigsegg, visit exoticcarmarketplace.com. If you're into anything with wheels and a motor, log on to the Motoring Podcast Network and check out our family of podcasts at motoringpodcast.net. This is the place to find your favorite new show. Next up, a shout out to David Beatty and his team at Slot Mods, who custom build some of the coolest slot car tracks in the world at slotmods.com. Let your imagination run wild. And finally, Grand Touring Motorsports, covering all aspects of auto racing and motorsports history. Check out their e-zine at gtmotorsports.org. All the links for our sponsors are in the description.
This episode has been brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports as part of our Motoring Podcast Network. For more episodes like this, tune in each week for more exciting and educational content from organizations like the Exotic Car Marketplace, the Motoring Historian, Break Fix, and many others. If you'd like to support Grand Touring Motorsports and the Motoring Podcast Network, sign up for one of our many sponsorship tiers at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. Please note that the content, opinions, and materials presented and expressed in this episode are those of its creator, and this episode has been published with their consent. If you have any inquiries about this program, please contact the creators of this episode via email or social media as mentioned in the episode.